Hey everyone, so today we're going to go over some basic Model UN terms and how basic Model UN procedures work. So, some common terms here are placards. So it's a piece of plastic or card or just paper that you would raise up to signal to the chair that you want to speak. They have one per delegation, so if you have 3 people representing the country of Italy, then you would have 1 card stock. There's also the term decorum, and that is used for calling order the committee. So it's basically telling someone to quiet down when things get out of order, because things can get pretty heated in the Model UN debate. There's a chairperson, so the chair is a very important person because they're sitting at the front of the room with the gavel, and they're the ones that facilitate all the debates. So they make sure that no one is talking over each other, cross-debating, and they call on speakers. They maintain the time of the speeches and the time of the entire committee, and they maintain the rules and procedures at all times. And another term that you want to know is motions. So motions are an action carried out by delegates, and they turn the debate in a different direction. So maybe you want a motion for moderated caucuses where you have monitored speaking times, or maybe you want an unmoderated caucus where you have unmonitored and unregulated speaking times. More on that later. So let's go over to points of debates. So points of debates, they kind of interrupt the flow of debate, but within reason. So during the debates, you may need one of these because you might need to make a point about the debate, and you might want to ask a question to the chair about some of the procedures, or maybe you just want to ask something to the chair to make you feel more comfortable. Maybe we'll go more on that after. So this is why you use points. So during moderated caucuses and speakers list, because in an unmoderated caucus, it's unregulated anyway, so it doesn't matter. At that point, you can do most whatever you'd like to do. And so some situations, they really require the attention, and so you don't need a motion, debate, or voting. You would just use one of these points, and the chair can handle it right away. And you can declare points of orders, points of inquiry, and points of personal privilege. So, are you unsure of how debate works? Ask for a point of inquiry. So, you raise your placard. The delegation from Italy has a point of inquiry. When is lunch? How much time is left in the committee session? And how can I even motion for a moderated caucus? Next one, point of personal privilege, used for speaking for the rights of delegates. So, can the delegation of Argentina speak louder? Because you can't hear them, so you ask for a point of personal privilege to make sure you speak louder so you can understand what they're trying to say, and maybe make a rebuttal afterwards if you're on the speakers list next. That's very important. Can the windows be open? Maybe it is too hot, too cold, and you just need the fresh air. May I step out to use the bathroom? Often used in smaller committees as bigger committees, you might be able to get let out, especially if you have over 200 delegates in the room. You're probably able to just step out of the room, and you already have someone else probably in your team who's representing your country still, so you do not have to be present in that sake, as they can cover for you. So, points of orders. So this is to help correct something that happened. So, say for example, there's 2 for and 2 against, which we will go on during the next meeting, but you need 2 people who are for the motion and for the resolution, and 2 people who are against that. If you only have 2 people for the resolution and 1 person against, you'll need another person. And so you have to call the chair out and tell them, hey, we need another person to make sure that this is going well, or that we can't actually do this action. Usually the chair will catch that, but sometimes the chair miscounts something. Maybe the chair misses someone that's on the speakers list, misses the timing, and maybe you just want to call another delegate out because they did something. Maybe they are using a cell phone in the 1800s. Who knows? All these points, by the way, can interrupt another speaker during moderated caucuses and speakers lists. Right of reply. This is definitely mostly used by countries like India, the United States, and China, as they seem to get offended by things that happen during debate, which is usually reasonable because people might say some very offensive stuff during their speech, and this is to make sure that this is not allowed. So you can, when your delegation feels like your country's integrity has been insulted, you can use a right of reply. So for example, China would say, we maintain our right to deal with our own country's matters on a sovereign level when someone else tries to call them out for how they're dealing with a certain situation, such as businesses, and they think they're unethical. They can have their own reply because they may directly say the name China, and that is when they can use the right of reply. If they just say it in general and it's not hinting towards the country, obviously, then it's usually fine. Roll calls. So this happens at the beginning of debates, the beginning of the committee session, just to make sure that everyone's there. You have to record attendance, and you have to make sure there's quorum. So quorum is the minimum number of delegates that are needed to be in the committee present so that you can actually have the committee running. Because if you don't have enough committee members, then you cannot do voting properly. And then it'll be biased, and then so for a formal session, you need 1/3 of the members present. Over half the committee members must be present for substantial votes, and the numbers may change from different model UNs that are bigger or smaller, depending on what they are for. And you have two options for roll calls. You can have present and voting, and you can have present. So when you are present, you are not voting, or you could be voting at times, and you are allowed to abstain. But present and voting, that means you have to vote, and you're not allowed to abstain. Usually bigger countries like the United States and some of the superpowers like Russia, they will have to usually do present and voting, whereas smaller countries may not choose to be voting, and they might not be as certain about their substances on certain subtopics, so they would abstain. But the one thing is that abstentions do not count as votes. So if you have 190 abstentions, 1 vote against the resolution, and 2 votes for the resolution, this vote clearly passes because 2 people voted in favor and only one against, because abstentions do not count as votes. Even though 190 of them abstained, they do not count as votes. So, limits to abstaining. So, this is for if you're present only. So, there are times where you do not want to vote, which are during the resolutions, but for procedural votes, you would have to vote because that's how the workflow gets done. Nothing would be progressed if you had 190 people abstaining. So, substantial votes, they are votes that have action for stuff happening outside the debate, such as draft resolutions, amendments, motions, modifying resolutions. And so, if you have been present only, you're allowed to abstain from those. But procedural votes, you are not allowed to abstain from those because they're concerning the committee's workflow, and say you need to extend speakers' times or suspend debate. It's the quick and fast process, and you just need to vote right away and just let the chair know that, hey, we need to get this done, we need to get this over with, hey, we need to extend more time for this. And yeah, so any vote that's not substantial vote is considered a procedural vote, and yeah. So how do you even speak to begin with? Well, you have moderated caucuses and unmoderated caucuses. In moderated caucuses, you have a formal debate process that allows delegates to take turns sharing opinions on sub-issues, which leaves very little room for cross-debating, and it's a very formal procedure in which people get to take time to just speak without being interrupted and voice their opinions. So it's good to get on the speakers list for this. Unmoderated caucuses is a formal debate where, informal debate, So where you can leave your seats, you can go talk freely, you can make friends, you can do whatever you'd like, go to the bathroom, eat food, but mostly this is a great time to use to find potential allies and draft resolutions. There is obviously a limit to the amount of moderated caucuses you can have because this is formal debate structures, and so they encourage more and more moderated debates. First and last. So, when you do motion in a moderated caucus to speak, you are going to be asked if you want to speak first or last. So the pros and cons for speaking first and last. If you're the one that asked for the moderated caucus, you're the one that gets this option because you are the one that motioned for it. Are you speaking first or last? So if you speak first, you get to start the debate topic off and bring the most important idea you have, and let everyone know that, and then they can start forming debates around that topic. If you were the last person to speak, you have the final word that delegates remember from that topic. So it is your choice. The choice is yours. So how do you get a reply or yield your time? So, of course, you're not allowed to cross debate, but the one exception is when you have a speaking time of, say, 2 minutes and you have 45 seconds remaining, you can yield your time to another country, and then you hope for a response, obviously. Or you can even yield the time to the chair, in which no one can respond, or you can yield your time to questions, in which the chair will call upon people that raise their placard to ask questions to you and direct them to you. So, of course, you can't class debate unless you're like right of reply, but this is a way to get responses from other delegations in which you have a question for, basically how they run their country. Maybe there's something in one policy that they do not follow and you wanted to call out them and ask them why that is and what their thoughts on a certain topic is. Or in order to induce maybe further allyship or people to not be their allies. So yeah. The speakers list. Very important thing. The speakers list is the list of people of states, member states that are wishing to speak. However, before you can be added to the speakers list, you have to open it first in debate. You have the motion to open for it. So if you're running for a motion, the order is from most restrictive to least restrictive. So the one most speakers with it should be voted on first. It's also called most restrictive. So if it's not in order, if your motion that you have asked for is not in order, then you may ask for amending your motion to something that the chair would accept. Sometimes they will ask, would you like to amend the motion? And then you can amend it because maybe your speaking time was not divided equally into the overall speaking time. So for example, if you have 10 minutes and 45 seconds speaking time, that is not divisible by 10 minutes. 45 seconds is not divided into 10 minutes equally, so that would be not in order. But if you amended it to 10 minutes speaking time with 1 minute speaking time, 10 minutes with 1 minute speaking time, that would actually divide evenly, and people can each take 1 minute out of 10 minutes in total, and that would add up properly. Another example is 9 minutes and 45 seconds speaking time. So that actually would work with 9 minutes and 45 seconds, and 45 seconds speaking time also works as well. And people might disagree with your motion because the length of your speaking time is too long or too short, and they need to move faster or slower into moving into the resolutions. and they want to kill time. They don't need to kill time, depending on how fast the debate's going, how rigorous it is. And you are not allowed to have too many unmods, as I mentioned before, as this is formal debate. So the primary speakers list is used when multiple agenda topics are available. So, say for example, you have one on climate change, you have one on weapons, you have one on exploring space. So there are so many different topics you have in your committee. Maybe you have a bunch of different countries represented there, and so you have a bunch of different topics to debate. In this scenario, you would have to use and open the primary speakers list, and you would have to set an agenda. So a motion to open the primary speakers list is the motion you would use, and it's one of the easiest motions to make at a conference. It's because it's one of the first ones, but there is one caveat. So if you have only one agenda topic, say you're only debating crisis climate change, like that is the only topic of the entire Model UN, which sometimes it is the case because it's much easier to do that, and you actually have a more likely chance to get somewhere. Because sometimes when I've been in debates where you had multiple agenda topics and you don't really get through any because people are debating, arguing back and forth, even though they cannot technically back and forth, it's moderated through speaking times. It is still a long process and takes up a lot of time. So that's why usually most Model UNs you might go to may only have one agenda topic anyways. And so you wouldn't really need the primary speakers list. And so in that case, you would motion for a secondary speakers list. Motion to open the primary speakers list with the speaking time of 60 seconds. And then you would propose what the agenda topic is. Say you want to do climate change, whatever it is. Secondary speaker list is when the agenda topic is already set, and this is where you can start motioning for unmoderated or moderated caucuses. So which topic would you discuss first? Would you discuss space exploration, or would you discuss environmental sustainability? Well, the answer is environmental sustainability. The reason why is because it's in order of most destructive to least destructive. And because environmental sustainability has irreversible changes, that is more destructive than space exploration. That can be done at any time. Environmental sustainability has some lasting impacts that can impact the future of the debate. And so you need to tackle that issue first. And so that's why they would be voted upon first, but some people might disagree on that, and it would be face-to-face exploration, but it would be voted on first by that. So what's a good way to build allies?